All right, good evening, everyone. Darren Adair with American Hospitality Consulting. Welcome to Great Minds Session 12, our anniversary edition. Thank you all for being here and being a part of this, and for those who celebrated and helped us, supported us through the last 12 months. I really do appreciate it. Today, we have got a pretty cool session, and I've got, fortunately, two experts who know a lot more about it than I do joining us. But today, I've been seeing a lot of growth in the vegan and plant-based restaurant space. And I thought it was something that deserved an opportunity to be talked about, to educate people on. So if you're looking to get into the space or want to add some menu items to your restaurants, that you have some of that information on how to properly do that. So I've got two experts joining us today, and I'm very excited to have them. Firstly, I've got Kailey Gilchrist. Kailey has been the sauce boss and CEO of NONA Vegan since 2013. NONA is dedication to her late Italian mama. She loves sharing love through food by selling her plant-based sauces at grocery retailers and food service establishments. Kailey believes in inclusive tables where everyone can enjoy a delicious meal together, no matter what their dietary restrictions might be. So Kailey, welcome to Great Minds Sessions.
Thanks.
My pleasure. And then I also have joining us tonight somebody who's been with us many times before and has been a great contributor to Great Mind Sessions. That's Angelee Brown. Angelee is seen as one of Canada's top thought leaders in recruitment and franchising. Angelee has done a lot of work in this space when it comes to franchising restaurants and supporting restaurants through growth. She's been just over 15 years of hospitality recruitment and franchising experience for world-class global companies, and has successfully owned and operated her own franchise, and now owns her consulting practice, which is right now FranchiseFix. Angelee, thank you for being a part of this again, and for helping us to talk about this amazing topic.
Can't wait.
Awesome.
We're gonna dive in. We have a lot to cover today. So.
We do. So I'm going to start off, Kailey, with you, because I think for those of us who are maybe not so understanding of this space, and to get rid of some of the misconceptions, and we talked about this the other day, maybe we should start with the definition of what's the difference between vegan and plant-based and vegetarian. Why don't you start us off with that, just so we have that starting point?
For sure, yeah. It's interesting because I went vegan 17 years ago now, and I was living in Barrie, Ontario, which is north of Toronto, and there was nobody understood vegan. They were like, vegan, what? I don't understand. So defining it, yeah, I can do that. So vegetarian is folks who don't eat meat, but they still have dairy and eggs. So they could have like a traditional Alfredo pasta dish, as an option without, hold the chicken kind of thing.
Right.
That's vegetarian. Vegan is no animal products at all. So I don't consume dairy or eggs, any meat or fish, no gelatin, or, there's even vegan wines that don't use fish bones in the processing. Veganism really extends, no honey as well. It really extends to also like your lifestyle. So I don't buy leather or wool or silk. It extends to, it's really like a lifestyle choice. So it's not just about the food, it's about minimal or no animal use in any of your lifestyle products. Right. Then there's plant-based, which is the latest, and this one's a bit of a wishy-washy definition. So I'm not the only person who has a definition on it, but here's my take. Plant-based generally is just about food. It's not about lifestyle, and it's sometimes could include dairy and eggs in some people's definitions. I've seen products or things on a menu labeled as plant-based, but they use the Beyond Meat burger, but they put mayo on it, and it's like the plant-based burger. And so it's a little bit more hazy. It's not as firmly defined as vegan. Those are my thoughts. I don't know, Angelee, you're nodding along, so I think you agree.
Well, no, you brought up a great point, Kailey, because even back when A&W launched their burger and some other fast food chains had launched their, vegan burgers, and everybody was so excited in the vegan community because they were like, wow, we can finally go and eat something that's fast food and that we don't have to worry. And then, of course, there was that backlash because there wasn't a proper communication, of course. And we know this because we come, like Darren and I and other people on this call, come from the franchise and fast food industry. And number one, you know, our restaurant owners, I think, are you know, franchise is going to install a very specific grill to cook that product on. Yes, they may have a proper process, obviously, with different tongs and different cooking ware, but there could be cross-contamination, which for some vegans, that's like an absolute no-no. My brother is on that spectrum, I like to say, where he's been vegan for the last 10 years. So even knowing that there's cross-contamination potential, he definitely would never eat there. You know, and some people are okay with it, but then also there was, I think it was another I don't want to call them out, but there was another fast food chain that they were putting mayo, and everyone thought the mayo was vegan and it wasn't. And so that was a really big thing, because eggs are a bit of the hard, or you know, a bit of a concern, I think, when it comes to that community, especially. So they were pretty upset about that. So yeah, I think in the plant-based space as well, I agree with you that, you know, plant-based can really mean different things to different people. So some are like, they'll eat more plant-based, or they're plant-forward diets, or they're 100% plant-based, or they're whole food plant-based, which means they're not eating any fats, oils, or anything that's really not from the source. And that's really how I started on, when I was trying to lose weight, started on my plant-based journey, is, you know, learning how to just really eliminate all the garbage in my diet. It's surprising, like how much waste and weird stuff we have in our food if we're not reading the labels properly. So I just did an elimination diet and then started from there. And I had a lot of success with that. But obviously I also had a lot of influence from other family members that had gone plant-based or gone vegan before it was more mainstream like it is now. And I remember even back in the day, back when, you know, Darren and I, when I was at Tim's, I used to make fun of my brother, you know, like, this thing is never going to fly. Everyone's always going to be eating meat. Like, what are you doing? I thought he was a little fun tree hugger, as I like to say, but it's come into like its own light. And I think it's one of those things where people are accepting and understanding that no matter what, I think the commonality that when we're aligning on whether you are plant-based or vegan, I think the more forward trend right now we're seeing is a lot of the climatarian, and really focusing on what's good for our planet, good for our environment, but also good for our bodies. So I'll be talking a little bit about that today.
All right. Perfect. Thank you, Angelee. And you know, that's why I wanted to start with the definition, because for someone like myself who is just starting to learn a little bit more about this space, and, you know, seeing the growth that's been going on in this space, you don't want to make those mistakes like you guys were talking about, right? You want, if you're going to do it, you want to do it properly. You want to be serving it properly. So it's good to have an understanding and a starting point. So I appreciate that. But let's talk about it. Angelee, you just mentioned this, and Kailey, I'm going to come back to you. But one of the reasons I wanted to do this was because we are starting to see it become more mainstream. I mean, you know, I've used this, and I think I've used it both with you, Kailey, and Angelee, where vegan used to be a 4-letter word in the restaurant business, right? People just, it gave you this impression in your mind of what it was, and it's not that anymore. It has changed immensely, and there's some great options out there. So, you know, what you know, Kailey, from your perspective, what has driven that change, and what has been some of the biggest changes that you've seen over the years that have brought us to where we are today?
Yeah, so when I was 16 and I would go to like Kelsey's or East San Mario's, or, you know, with my friends, because I'm in Barrie and I want to eat dinner with my friends, I would sit down at the table, everyone would get their menus, and I would be like, I need your recipe binder. And the server would be like, how do you know we have, well, you know, and I'd be like, no, I need your full binder, please. And I would go through and I would basically create my own dish. I'd be like, okay, can't have the croutons because they have eggs in it. And I would like create my own dish. And it was, you know, kind of fun. I like cooking, so I got chefy with it. I felt horrible because I've worked back of house, front of house, and like, I'm like, I don't know, I'm that customer, but I need to eat food. I'm sorry. Today, almost everybody has, you know, not necessarily a fully vegan option, but veganizable things. And there's a bit more understanding around it. People don't look at me like, who are you and what does this mean anymore? They'll, you know, I'll say, oh, I'll have your Beyond Meat burger, but without the mayo, without the cheese, and without the bacon, or, you know, whatever they're putting for some reason on top of those Beyond Meat burgers. So yeah, it's definitely changed just so dramatically in the last 17 years of being a vegan. And I think the reasons, like Angelee touched on environment, like I think in the last, 3 years, I'd say even when I was younger, when I was in university, people were like, you can't be an environmentalist if you're not vegan. Like it was a thing. But with Greta going vegan for the environment became like huge in the last couple of years. Or even just like reducing your meat consumption, meatless Mondays, that's a thing that
Right.
folks participate in, and they're not even vegan and they don't have to be. They're just trying to reduce their consumption. So I think environmentalism, I think health concerns, like, folks wanting to lower their cholesterol or lose weight or be healthy or, whatever, or they have allergies or they have kids with allergies or, I think
Right.
everyone can think of someone that, who's lactose intolerant, gluten intolerant, gluten has nothing to do with veganism, but, people have a lot of sensitivities, dietary restrictions nowadays. So I think that's another huge driving force. And then just, I don't know, general like awareness. It's been trendy for a while. I think it's not even a trend anymore. It's kind of here to stay now. And people are realizing what they can do now with plants. They're learning how to cook better with it, and great products are coming out to help with that as well. So that's kind of what I think has changed. Thank goodness for me.
Yeah,
Selfishly.
definitely. Yeah. And you said a couple of things in there. We talked a bit about the allergies. Like when I was a kid, I would not have survived elementary school because for me, it was peanut butter sandwich every day for school. Right. And now you can't do that. So there's been a lot of changes. So environmental changes, most definitely. I did want to touch on something that you said, and Angelee, I'll throw it over to you in a second with this as well. But I know when we were talking the other day, you said you would get their binder and you'd look and see, and you brought up the point that I think would be great for a lot of restaurant owners to understand is they've probably got a lot of items in their restaurants now without bringing in anything new. They could create a vegan friendly dish fairly easily.
Totally. And yeah, I still do that today with menus rather than the binders, because usually they've got more on the menu now. But I often do that, or like there'll be a vegetarian option that's like roasted vegetables on toast. And I'm like, that's awesome. I'll probably be hungry in an hour because there's no protein. But I see that you have baked beans as a side of this bacon dish. Are the baked beans vegan? Can I see the ingredients? Yes. Okay. How about we add that to this vegetarian dish and make like a really you already have it in your kitchen. So it's easy. It doesn't cost you anything. It costs you to add it to a dish, obviously, but to bring it in. So I think that's such a good point. I often think, especially if there's no vegan or vegetarian option, I'm looking at the menu and I'm like, you've got great, local veggies roasted, beautiful. Like you do them in oil already. Awesome. Just, pair that with this. And like, I'm trying, I was saying to you, Darren, the other day, I was like, I should make a job of consulting, just like looking at people's menus and pulling this and this and this and being like, here's your option, print it because you need to have it. I think Angelee, you do this a lot, obviously, as well, right?
Well, yeah, like what I would love to see, on just off your point, Kailey, is that, restaurants, when I go to a restaurant and I'm looking for the plant-based option, I feel like I'm playing a game of like Where's Waldo sometimes. And it's so awkward because everybody else has their main or has their dish already picked out and you're kind of going, and then I'm not sure if I have to be looking for the leaf and then you read the fine print and it's vegetarian, but oh crap. And then you're trying to figure out what I should be eating. So that leads to a lot of confusion and also, dining out when we do have the opportunity to dine out, especially with everything going on with COVID over the last 2 years, like it really needs to be focusing. Darren and I have talked a lot about this in the last sessions about really the guest experience and, eliminating those awkward moments, right? So if it is possible for some restaurants to do, having like almost like to your point, having a menu where they can pick a base, because most vegans and vegetarians in that category will really know where their mind already needs to, or their eyes already need to go to build. So if they can pick a base and then using everything that is off the menu already or off the restaurant list. So if they have the roasted mushrooms and the peppers and the sauces, so build your base and then add your, lentils or proteins or vegan proteins that they have. and they can build their own bowls or build their own like main. And I know it puts more pressure on the kitchen. So I'm sure Chef Jason would be like, oh God, please do not do that. But, you know, having the opportunity, are you okay? But you know, having that flexibility, so it's not uncomfortable where you feel socially awkward, because I honestly do still feel socially awkward when I'm trying to order things when I eat out, because it just takes us longer, and then you have to ask questions, and it just doesn't make that first impression very happy. Like, it's not a great experience. So if there's a way to remove that barrier, I think restaurants should be doing that.
Perfect. Guys, as we're going through, if you do have any questions or comments you'd like to make, just a reminder, like we have in the past, throw a note into the chat function. I'll bring you in, and you can ask your questions of Kailey or Angelee, or share your point, and we'll discuss it. So, so Angelee, just kind of on that a little bit more, when you're working with people, if people who are either wanting to get into this space by adding it to a menu, or, you know, opening up a restaurant, what are the types of things that they should really be cognizant of and focused on to make sure that they're doing it properly?
I think, well, right now, food cost is a big concern. So I think when people are considering what to add to their menu, and you know, also considering, you know, what supply, you know, not interruption of supply chain. You don't want to take the time and effort to put something on a menu, and then 3 weeks later you can't get it in stock, or, you know, it's been eliminated off your GFS order, or your local producer can't provide it. So, you know, these supply chain issues will continue. And I think the second part is, you know, considering trends. And I think the mistake that a lot of restaurants make is when they're considering plant-based, they throw things on the menu that are faux meats, and think that that's going to solve the world's problems when it comes to when vegans and vegetarians are dining out. That by adding, you know, a vegan chicken nug, or, you know, a vegan pork, or, you know, I know those things are trendy, but, you know, there is also a bit of a backlash on faux meat. So just to keep that in mind. And I think great chefs are going to be cognizant of, you know, what is going to be good and palatable. On the other side of that is also to consider, when we're going back to food costs, is to think about the things that are already popular. And so, you know, making sure that we're looking at, you know, food trends and taste profile trends. So, you know, looking at things, people are really looking at still global flavors, excuse me. You know, people are looking at foods that incorporate a lot more health benefits, and gut health is really on trend as well. So, you know, again, going back to those mix and match items. And, you know, I love that idea of like creating your own experience. And I know that can't work in every restaurant, but, you know, having the opportunity to ramp up the global flavors and the taste profile. And then protein doesn't need to be fake protein. Not every vegan, and even not every plant-based or vegetarian eater wants to eat something that reminds them of cows or chickens or pigs, right? So, you know, to them, that's a little it freaks them out. I have a friend that she was vegetarian, but she used to cry, like when her husband would bring home fish, she would cry and sit there and apologize to the food, like to the fish. I'm like, are you okay? Like, but she had this moment. She said, I feel so bad. There's this dead fish sitting here with the head on, and and so people can be really emotional for them. So we have to be sensitive to that. So things like lentils, chickpeas, mushrooms, you know, those are great, you know, plant-based sources we can look at to kind of play with. Those are great flavors, and they're not expensive. Like, you can literally, as a restaurant owner, you can pick up a massive bag of lentils for usually like $10 or $15, and you can use that in Moroccan dishes and couscous or tagine type dishes, and incorporate all these different flavors that are still fun and they're flavorful, but, you know, again, they're not going to hit you in the pocketbook when it comes to producing that.
Perfect. Awesome. Chef, did you want to share a little bit on your comment that you put in there?
Yeah.
Could you imagine me sitting here being quiet the whole time?
No, I knew you were going to jump in at some point.
Hi, everyone. Anton, I hope you had a good trip, by the way. Are you safe?
Yeah, just landed about an hour ago, so sitting in a hotel waiting to have a glass of wine.
Good stuff. You should have one with all of us.
Yeah.
So my comment was, if an operator wants to create a real plant-based option, then it shouldn't just be, oh, we've got a couple of options here for you. Chefs and operators really are show-offs. I'm one of them. and we love to be able to show our skills and to feed people, and we want to feed everybody. We don't want people to be left out or be excluded. And when we're looking at menus, the opportunity is there to be able to put some great plant-based options on there, and to be able to say, we've done this and we've done that, and it doesn't have to be, something out of a package. If you really want to show your skill, then get involved in cooking vegetables in a different and interesting way. I mean, in North America, we're really the only place that focuses so much on meat, and I mean, around the world, everywhere around the world, except for North America, for the most part, it's usually just a little something that's put on the plate. It's not the entire plate covered in meat. It's usually just a side piece, right? So the opportunity is there to really show your skill and to really invite the inclusion. With my own pizza brand, I mean, we looked at, in the beginning, we put just 10% of the menu was, a couple of vegan style pizzas, and it became so popular, it became half of the menu. I mean, we literally moved it up. I think it turned into 40% of the menu was plant-based, and going out and trying to find things to put on pizzas that was, that were already made, just became a pain in the ass. We said, you know what, we can make this in-house. Not only can we make it in-house, but we can make it in-house way cheaper. All we have to do is be smart about it. Now, I can't take credit for that. Everybody who knows me and knows my wife knows that she's the brains of the two of us. So she was the one who came up with all of these ideas and would use me as the guinea pig, and I would try them. But the option is there. And the opportunity is there. I've had this conversation with many, many chefs who have thought maybe they've missed the boat on opportunities on, this particular dish or this particular ingredient. And I always say to them, you know what, if you think that you've run out of challenges, you haven't gone into making enough plant-based products. And I do make the division in having the conversation when we're talking about food between plant-based and vegan. Mm-hmm. I make that division because, again, as Kailey mentioned, one is a lifestyle, and the other is about your food. So I think that definitely needs to be part of the conversation. And having lived in Vancouver for a very long time, which is the motherland of vegans, there are groups who are marching in the streets, and there are groups who are coming to your restaurants. And some of them you want at your restaurant, some of you don't. So.
For Kailey. She's like, oh yes.
But I make that as a generalized comment, because if an operator isn't a completely plant-based menu, then people who are militant vegans won't come, or they'll come and then give your restaurant a bad review because you don't just have everything that's according to their particular ideology.
Oh yeah. Luckily, that's the minority, but it can quickly blow up your social, right? If it's not.
You haven't spent enough time in Vancouver if you think that's the minority. I'll leave the floor to the rest of you.
So what's the best suggestion, the best way for a restaurant that's not currently a vegan restaurant but is wanting to make some options available? Because I mean, I'm sure people like Kailey, you mentioned you wanted to go out with your friends, and everyone has different tastes and palates and that kind of thing. What are the best ways for them to try and do this and not get into some of those situations, right? And can they? I mean, is that even possible?
I think, Angelee, you're doing some great stuff with recipes and making them available to restaurants. We've had that conversation between us, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm expanding on that. So you were really a great inspiration for me, Chef, on that. And just thinking about, locally, I'm doing a food initiative with a local chef here who's really well known. He's top chef in the Niagara region, over 20 years experience. He does a ton of restaurant consulting. So he actually hosted a client event at my house when, things were a little weird with the COVID lockdown and we could only have so many people in and out. So, instead of going to a restaurant, I wanted to host like a really nice dinner party. So I invited him to my home and we just really hit it off. I had known of him through social and everything. And so we're working together on launching in the new year I'm going to focus on the healthy based soup initiative. So really, I have all these soup recipes. Like everyone knows me. Like I was growing up from a little girl. My dad was like the soup and sauce guy. So he was always in the kitchen doing soups and sauces, and I just loved it. And not, sometimes I didn't always love it because he had a more spicier palate. So that as a little one, it took me a while, but I do love my spice. And so I started developing all these recipes of just really bold flavors and healthier soups. And I feel like honestly, like that's really helped me through COVID as well, just from a health perspective and just to stay healthy and feel better, is that I'm making soups and a lot of sauces, but a lot of soups throughout the week already in my diet. So I always have a fresh soup in my house, like 2-3 times a week. So I'm like, why don't we just do this for charity? I think more people need to learn how to do this or to have this in their home and incorporate that into their lifestyle. So we're doing that. We're starting that in January. And then for every 10 that we sell, we're going to donate a liter of soup to the local shelter or to a local initiative. We have a couple that we have good relationships with here. So again, because, you know, during especially tough times, what are most people that are, you know, disadvantaged or having, you know, struggling with, you know, meeting their dietary needs, you know, they're eating things that, you know, regularly you're picking up a staple like your peanut butter, your tunas, your pastas, and usually you're not very healthy meals, your box meals. So I'm hoping that this will, you know, at least help them a little bit. The other thing is too, is I did the advising a little bit of the menu stuff with the plant-based, with the burger restaurant that just opened in Toronto. So a lot of the work that I did there, I know that Daryl brought in a chef, obviously, but I did a lot of work on guiding for the global flavors because that was a really big sticking point for me. I said, if you're going to go into Toronto, it's really a melting pot of a community, and we need to make sure that we have Indian flavors and we have more, like, you know, just more Asian flavors, and we do something that's different, especially if you're introducing a plant-based burger. You know, I feel in that market, that's where it's going to shine. So that was really great. We also had a debate for literally a month. I've never had a debate with anybody on waffle fries so much in my life, but we did debate about waffle fries versus regular fries. You're laughing because you know. But I'm like, waffle fries hold sauce better, you know. So to, you know, Kailey being the sauce boss, they do. They're a crispier product. They last longer. They're great for skip orders, Uber orders. So I'm like, please do not do regular cut French fries. Everybody else does them. They're a dime a dozen. I said, make yourself stand up. We're going to do waffle fries. And I was like pounding the table, like, we are doing waffle fries and we're going to load them up and make them sexy. I don't know if you can call waffle fries sexy, but I think we made them sexy. So that was something that I was very passionate about. And you know, I think the waffle fries are doing fantastic, you know. So there's been a lot of work on that over the last couple of months for sure. And still to be continued, right? As new menu innovations come out and things like that for that particular brand. So yeah, it's been a fun run.
Nice.
Yeah.
So let's kind of go back, and this is, you know, Chef, you're included in this, but Kailey and Angelee as well. And I hoped a friend of mine, yeah, I want some waffle fries too, Anton. I love waffle fries. Anyways, you know, in a couple parts. First of all, you know, Kailey, I know you put some menu items out. You posted something about pierogies. Anybody post anything about pierogies, and I'm done. Right? I mean, I grew up on them. I'm going to be making them next week for Christmas. So you had me. But I wanted to ask, and I'd wish a friend of mine, Warren Ford, Angelee, you know Warren, he's a chef. He's also a professor at George Brown in their culinary program. Are we doing any education for new chefs coming out around this type of food? Do we know that? You don't think so, Chef? Not enough anyways, right? Mohammed, you're shaking your head too.
And I say that because of conversations I've had with Chef Christine Couvelier, who is the former chair of George Brown and is, as far as I'm concerned, and many others, is the top R&D chef on the planet. And she is doing a lot of work with companies that are plant-based, and they're doing prepackaged plant-based. And she's talking with them about even just making their profile palatable, let alone visually acceptable, to say the least. And I think in our culinary schools, to start with, we really do need to be having those conversations about food costs, as Angelee brought up. I mean, the numbers are there. So, And as the cost of food goes up so much, and specifically the cost of meat goes up, and again, to speak to Angelee's point, even in the home, we really do need to be putting more thought and more education into sourcing products, not just local, but plant-based, and then showing the way to, to really make these things creative. So not everything has to be a boiled potato or a can of chickpeas, right? I mean,
Please no.
and again, I know I'm throwing to you a lot, Angelee, here, but I mean, some even restaurateurs and chefs don't know where to begin because that's not where they started, and for many years it's not what we've taught, and it's not what we learned. So the opportunity there for somebody who's putting together, pre-made recipes that even you can build off of, and even to give ideas from, that Angelee's putting together, I think that's great. I mean, if I had no idea where to begin, I would certainly welcome somebody who's put together the recipes, sourced out the core products from, even the core sources. So places like GFS and Cisco and Pratt's and those guys, what's it cost to build this out? Because if you bring a recipe to me that's going to cost me 18% as opposed to 38% to make that in my restaurant, you've got my attention.
Yeah.
Not just for the sake of the restaurant, but also because I'm a cheap Scotsman.
Oh, I love it.
Perfect. So let's kind of, what are the things, and this is going to go to both of you, and I'm not sure how I want to put this, but are there things when you're getting into this that you would recommend that they stay away from? Like, are there traps that when a restaurant can fall into when they're trying to create some of these menu items? I'm gonna really bring Kailey in on this, because I mean, I think that she's been living this for a long time. She's obviously the expert here, but the comment also about, people who are interested in eating plant-based, they don't want to be reminded that this tastes like what a dead cow tastes like. This tastes like what a dead chicken tastes like. It tastes like, that's where you're losing the creativity. And that's also where you're creating exclusion. So, I mean, I'm going to throw to Kailey on that as somebody who lives it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of disagree with that, because as a vegan I've never tried bacon. I don't remember. I maybe had a hamburger when I was like 5 at a school barbecue that my mom forgot my veggie burgers at. I don't know. But like, this stuff doesn't remind me of anything. It's just like, oh, I know it has protein and it's pretty flavorful and delicious. So like, to me, I don't mind that on a menu, but I do agree that like creativity is super key, and like, lentils can be delicious. And like, to your point, chef, about, different cuisines, like Indian cuisine, Mexican cuisine, even like Japanese sushi, like there's so much there. And every other culture seems to have like vegan options. I don't call them vegan options, but like, there are great protein sources and nuts and beans and legumes and everything like that. So I think creativity, like a trap to fall into, would be, in my opinion, creating something like not quite vegan and calling it plant-based. And then I think you could get into like, because I have an egg allergy. So and obviously in 17 years of being vegan, I've accidentally eaten some egg because something's labeled as vegan. I eat it. I immediately go flush red. My mouth swells up and I'm like, I already asked you about the egg in this bun because it looked kind of yellow. And they're like, no egg. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm just reacting to nothing. I think a big trap would be to just, if you're going to do it and you're going to label it as vegan, like, be sure it's vegan, because that would be, and then kind of that's where those, bad PR could come in, because the vegan community, we've got Facebook groups of like, oh my gosh, did you hear that this fast food establishment, there's one, again, I don't want to name names, but has brought in vegan chicken, but is accidentally giving vegans real chicken. And
I saw that. Yeah.
It's like,
oh my gosh, that's embarrassing.
it's like your reputation's wrecked. Like I am never going to order there because I don't know. Again, I don't remember what chicken tastes like. It's been like 20 years. I don't know. Like if I got it, I'd assume it was fake and then I'd probably be horrifically sick. So yeah, my main trap to not fall into is like, don't screw that up. If you're going to do it, make sure you're doing it right. And then, yeah, to everybody's point, just be creative. It doesn't just have to be add a fake meat, but I again, I don't mind a fake meat personally. But some people don't like it because especially if they're newer vegans, I find they're a little more repulsed by it because it's like they have the mouth feel memory. That's not a word, but like they
special.
yeah. They're like
now they're scarred, so that's why they changed.
Yeah.
Kailey, I mean, I want to get your opinion on this and what you think about. I have my own opinion, but what you think about education in restaurants where you're going to. I mean, obviously, like you say, you're going into a place and you're asking for their binder, but I think educating the general population and the general restaurant population, it needs to be there in the same way that food allergens need to be ramped up. I mean, we've dropped the ball on that in a big way too, but it really needs to be part of our core training. It needs to be part of our orientation. It needs to be part of our onboarding, and people to understand what does this mean, because there's so many kind of foo-foo about it that we kind of lose the traction if we haven't put the education in there in the first place.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I think like I just did, well, this is where I met Darren a while ago. I did a show where I was presenting my sauces, and I won't go too much into detail about my sauces, but I have a chef's inspiration book, and I'm like, here's a bunch of recipes you could make with my sauces, and everybody that I met with was like, what? That's brilliant. Like everybody was like, not to brag, but people were very impressed because they're like, oh, I would have no idea. And it was that education component. And like when I sell my products at retail, I'm selling to Whole Foods, I go in and I talk to their whole team. I train them on my product. But when I go to sell to a restaurant, I don't always have that opportunity. But in this last session, I did. And I walked people through my booklet and I talked about plant-based and vegan. And it was such an incredible opportunity. So like, I wonder how we can make that happen, like for me as someone who's selling a product to Cisco or whatever and to restaurants, like if I could come in and give that education, more than happy to, but I guess it's just how do we facilitate that? I think that it would be so key and amazing.
And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, because hopefully start getting some of that information and communication and education out there. I mean, I told you, Kailey, you got me, wasn't just your attitude, because I thought you were phenomenal, but when you mentioned the mac and cheese competition that you were in Toronto, that you won. I mean, I love mac and cheese. And that was just like, okay, I need to know more, because that's phenomenal, right? So it really, it's and working with Angelee so much in the last little while and knowing what she has done, it just seemed like this was a great opportunity for our industry to learn and get more direction on how to add this to their menus. You all did say something that I wanted to talk about, and Chef, you said it, and Kailey and Angelee, you both said it, and I started thinking, with the preparation of these items, does it become like an allergy order or a kosher order? I mean, I've worked in hotels a long time. I mean, we had a special kosher kitchen that had to be cleaned and blessed and all that. Or if there was an allergy, I worked at one place, if there was an allergy order, I had to go watch the chef prepare the order. Why I'm watching a chef prepare an order, I don't know, because he knows what he's doing more than I do, but it was just to make sure that, all clean pans, there was no cross contamination, all that kind of stuff. Does it need to be, is the expectation, if you're saying vegan, that it's to that level?
I'm going to just jump in on that and say I have mixed feelings about that approach, because if it's a restaurant where 80% or 90% of the diners are predominantly meat eaters, or they, maybe they bring along the vegetarian or the vegan, it puts a lot of stress, I think, sometimes on the kitchen to, you know, change up and do that process. It's not a crazy process, but there is still an additional care and concern that needs to happen. And I think on the flip side of that, the other issue is when it comes to vegans and vegetarians, you know, when they dine out, they tend to stick to the actual vegan restaurants and vegetarian restaurants where they know they don't have to stress out and worry. So I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but I find more often than not, vegan or vegetarian eaters will bring their friends that maybe are non-veg or non-vegan to the restaurants that they like, as long as they're available. Obviously, in like GTA, there's lots of options. Versus, you know, and I, you know, taking, you know, saying, okay, yeah, let's go to the keg, because no offense to the keg, you know, we know that we're going to go to the keg and we're going to be surrounded by people eating steaks, and, you know, maybe have a cauliflower steak option as your main. And again, to your point, be hungry in about an hour. So I think that it's doable, but you have to know your audience and know your market. So maybe doing a demographic study, you know, even doing like customer feedback cards. If this is something, I don't want people to roll out things in their restaurant that it's really just, you know, it's kind of like having 150 pizza toppings in your pizza franchise, because you know that, you know, there might be that 1% or 2% that will come in and ask for it. But I think in a more central area like your GTA, you know, yes, you should probably think about a process depending on where you're located.
When you talk about pizza, for example, I mean, my recommendation always is to rearrange your build line. So you're not in a position where you've got regular mozzarella that might get dropped in the marinara, when you could easily put your Violife on the other side, right? And then and you have that on the side where your veggies are, and then you just make the divide. So you've got your pepperoni, your salami, your ham, all the stuff on this side, and then everything else on the other side. So one doesn't just cross the other. So it's just a matter of redesigning your line.
That's a perfect solution. That's kind of what I was going to say, like split the difference. Like don't go, it's not a celiac situation. As a vegan myself, like it, you know, I don't expect the full allergen treatment, but I don't want mozzarella dripped on my pizza. Like that would actually make me sick, and that would be the kind of thing that Facebook would explode over, you know. Or like I've seen, at, you know, a sub place, they've used the same glove when they're touching the meat and touching the cheese and then touching the vegetables for my sub, you know, and that, I think that's a problem. But I don't think I think kind of split the difference, or like Chef's saying, just rearrange your line so that it makes the most sense. And I just would hate for it to be like for restaurants to feel like it's huge process, and that'll deter them from adding something to their menu, because if they need to do this whole process, then like that's a lot of, you know, I've worked in kitchens, like that's, you don't want to do that, right? So like I think somewhere in between, you know, within reason, have it be like a separate grill or a small corner of the grill even that's for the vegan burgers. Awesome. But it doesn't have to be the full process, in my opinion.
It helps with training too. I mean, because you're always going to have somebody who's new or newer, who doesn't really understand, or somebody who's going to screw it up, or you're going to end up having a franchisee who's just an asshole and isn't going to follow exactly the way that things are going to be put, and they're going to go ahead because they just couldn't be bothered and put the regular stuff on. And if somebody sees that it's separate, then you've separated that. So
that's the thing too, Chef. Like in one of the last incidents that happened that went viral, it was like, we've had this happen here. One was local. It was in a fast food chain, and it went viral because the employees just really hated people that were vegans. Like they had a personal like vendetta. So they were purposely doing that. And like, that's the thing, you know, managers really need to pay attention to what their labor is doing and keep the eyes out. Maybe, I know it's hard to find staff on a good day right now, so I don't want to open up that can, but yeah, you got to be careful, because they can really sink your brand pretty quickly if they just have a bad attitude.
I pulled a franchise license from one of my franchisees for pulling that shit.
Wow.
So, I mean, and realistically, at the end of the day, that was the final straw. It was, no, we're not going to be the place that has the name that is on the Facebook group where you just couldn't be bothered because it was 2 feet that way, you know, and just the extra effort, or to lean under and grab that extra Cambro out of the fridge under the line. So,
Yeah.
I mean, those are I always call them dietary concerns because it's somebody's dietary choice. It's not whether or not they're gonna turn red and blow up. It's their dietary choice. So, and if you're going to have that on the menu and you're going to offer that, then you need to respect that relationship between you and the customer.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely.
I think those mindsets and those attitudes will slowly, like they are changing already. You know, even, you know, I know Kailey, you've probably seen that quite a bit because now it is becoming so mainstream. And I think that's part of the problem when you think about how people identify a typical vegan, you know, and they really classify them in a way that isn't very respectful. When honestly, I think that a lot of the vegans are extremely forward thinking when, you know, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea and I'm totally comfortable with that. And I respect that. But, you know, I think that let's not categorize everybody and put them all into one bucket just because they have a specific lifestyle. It doesn't mean that, you know, they're going to be that type of person. And I think it's those attitudes are shifting already because just it's not sustainable. Like I talk to my kids about this all the time. It's realistically, I believe we're going to come to a point where, you know, when I take a drive in the country, I'm not going to see cows everywhere anymore. And I'm not going to see sheep everywhere anymore. I believe I'm going to live to see that. You know, we're going to see rows upon rows of just organic vegetables or, you know, lentils or other stuff, like just things happening in those fields where we normally would have seen cattle. And that, you know, we're going to be like, we're already growing lab meat. We're already doing all these different things to, you know, reduce our footprint on the environment. So no matter what part of the spectrum people are sitting at, I think at the end of the day, I think we all want to enjoy the earth that we live on. So there tends to be a bit of collaboration in that regard for most when it comes to issues with the environment, which, you know, I think if restaurants can take even that approach or people just keep an open mind that way, that does help. No, not every vegan is completely offside and doesn't shave their armpits and all the other weird stuff that people assume, right? Like, yeah.
I mean,
10 times a day. Although that sounds like a really good lifestyle.
Yeah, and I mean, there's, you know, just talking about some of this, there's things that we're already doing in our restaurants to address the cross-contamination, right? We've got different colored tongs for different items. We got different colored cutting boards for different items. So it's not a big stretch really to add some of these components. You're going to have a specific color for whatever that is going to be. So there's already things that we're doing in there. And I know, you know, the requirements around a lot more training when it comes to food safety. I know, Chef, you just put something out about that recently, and I used to be a food safety trainer. I did that for a lot of years, and I'm still a proctor for Advanced FST and Serve Safe. You know, it's just like following basic food safety principles, and you should be able to keep yourself in a good spot. So great, this is awesome. I'm learning a lot tonight, guys, and I appreciate it. So, you know, I wanted to talk a little bit about, and I got this written down. I know we're running out of time, but I want to do this last topic, and then I have one thing I want to share at the end today. You know, just if somebody is looking to get into this space, you know, what is, you know, especially if it's not in their own restaurant, but if they're looking to maybe branch out or do that kind of thing, you know, are there some brands that should be looked at right now who are doing a good job and seem like they're going to be having a good future going forward? You know, what's kind of the gold star places that we should be looking at right now, or are there any at this point where we're still growing and learning?
You mean locations or products?
Let's do both. Let's talk about, you know, other restaurant brands out there that are doing a good job in this space that you could look to as the gold star in the vegan space when you're looking at stuff. And are there, you know, gold star products out there that that you can look at? I know a few, and I'm sure Kailey, you know a few. But you know, what would those be?
I'm gonna call out our buddy Tom Monroe over at Maltwich. So Tom sits on a board of mine that I was on, and like, look, this guy's a genius. You know, you look at grilled cheese; it's like the most basic thing, comfort food. But there's all different kinds. But there are a lot of vegan options, and he's exploring with vegan cheeses as well, which I think is really smart. So yeah, like kudos to him for kind of being on trend that way and growing really fast from a franchise perspective. I think that anybody in the pizza and pasta space as well, I've seen like those are just no brainers for me. It's easy. There's lots of innovation. So I've seen a lot of road or headway done on that, which has been fantastic. And those tends to be the places where I go. Like if I'm going to go dine out, I'm like, okay, we're going for pizza. We're going to go out for pasta, or we're going to go out for to go grab a grilled cheese sandwich or whatever, because I know it's something that will appeal to everybody. And again, I have like young adults, right, that I usually have in tow with me. So, it's easy food for mom and for kids, like grown kids when I say kids. So that's been really good for me. And then I think it's just hit and miss when it comes to independent restaurants. And I do still do my research when I personally dine out, but that's a little bit of what I've experienced personally.
Okay. Kailey, any thoughts?
I'm like, just for the first time, did my first dining out. I've only gone once since like COVID started. So I'm like literally gapping on places and I also lived in Vancouver for 6 months of the pandemic. So I'm trying to think. I mean, I personally love a restaurant. I mean, of course I love vegan restaurants and that is what I frequent, but I love when there's somewhere where somebody is going and I, do my pre-research. Do I need to eat a block of tofu before I leave tonight? Recently, yes, I did. It was a fun poker game at a bar and everybody's like, we're getting dinner before poker. And I was like, excellent. Nothing on the menu, nothing. So I literally had a block of tofu before I left. But anyway, my favorite restaurants are the ones that people invite me to, and they've got either, to your point, chef, like an entire vegan menu that like I don't even know at first because it's separate. I kind of like that. I feel special. I feel like catered to and cared for, like, oh, these people actually thought through a creative like entire menu for me. I could get dessert that's not a fruit cup. Yes, thank you.
Oh my gosh. I wanted to say that if points, do not forget dessert on your menu. That's my number one beef. I know, like I'm gonna do the pouty face too. I know, it's like they pull out the dessert menu and everybody is like, yeah, dessert. And you're like, oh, great. Like there is not one thing on the menu that is always overlooked. And there's like so great vegan chocolate, sorbets. There's a vegan ice cream has taken leaps and bounds. Like just feed me it. And no, I don't want the fruit plate. Like if everybody else is indulging, I want to indulge a little bit too, right? So let me indulge. And that's my biggest pet peeve right now, is that there is not enough vegan. And it's so delicious now. Like people won't even tell the difference. I challenge, like from the vegan ice creams and the sorbets and even some of the chocolate desserts and stuff, like they're absolutely delicious. Like why, like, I don't know.
Yeah. You just reminded me actually of a product that my friends Mark and Alana at Sweets from the Earth. I don't know. They've been around. You've probably heard of them. They've been around for forever, but they do food service as well. And, their desserts, they have like Nanaimo bars and just like brilliant, like the little brownies and like so much delicious stuff. And it's frozen. You slack it off in the fridge. Like I think it would be such a great option for even nuke it if you need to, like if you're not having a high foot traffic of vegans coming through or people ordering that. Like I think for restaurants that would be just such a phenomenal option. No more fruit platters. I love fruit, but like on a Sunday morning on the side of my scrambled tofu and vegan bacon, but not like as my dessert at a nice restaurant.
Yeah, I don't want to spend $10 on a fruit plate. Like I can
skip it. I'll eat a banana when you get home.
Please.
Agreed.
So that's a great point.
When you were in Vancouver, did you go to Meat on Main?
Yeah.
One of my favorite restaurants ever, anywhere. Robbie drags me to it. It used to be our go-to place after work. We would go even at 10 o'clock at night and get, they call them groovy gravy fries with miso gravy.
Love the groovy flat fries.
Amazing. They do it right all the way through. They make everything in-house. They just do fabulous product. And some people on here know my dear friend, JJ Frazier. who was working with us at Real Hospitality Network, and now he's also one of the partners in a new brand out of Vancouver, founded by Vanessa Stonehouse, who is somebody who lives the plant-based lifestyle, understands it, does it in the right way, has got her heart in the right place. And she was smart enough to bring JJ in, who's got a fantastic palate. He has redesigned their recipes, and they've got popcorn chicken that they make, which is completely plant-based. They've got chicken patties, which like a chicken burger style. And he sent some of those to me. I put them in the air fryer at my house, fed them to my kids, had them myself, and they are far and above any actual chicken burger or popcorn chicken I've ever had. And JJ's own little company that he started kind of with that group, he's doing apple honey, which
Nice.
he shipped me 2 bottles of it. I couldn't keep my kids out of it. We've put it in everything, in tea, on ice cream, and I mean, you name it. It's one of the best things I've ever eaten. Ever.
This is me.
Hands down. If JJ saw this, he'd fall over that I said it. But it's one of the best.
DMing JJ right now, like, where's my apple honey?
So the company's called Mindful Food, FUD. They spelled it strangely, but wow, I mean, they're doing it the right way. And again, they brought JJ in and his amazing palate. The food is fantastic, and they're looking for people to invest and to help them grow. This past year, their kitchen, actually, they literally had orders ready to go out for that week, and the place was vandalized and it got burned to the ground. With the help of the community, people have been, putting money in to help them find a place to go and do production. They've been in a temporary kitchen, but I mean, people want their product, and it's awesome. I'll leave it at that.
Unbelievable. Thank you, Chef. Well, guys, listen, we're coming to the end here, so I appreciate everybody joining this evening. I really appreciate you guys being here. For those of you who've been with me through this 12-month journey, thank you so much for being a part of Great Mind Sessions. And we'll be continuing on into the future. If you've got any topics or ideas you'd like us to share, please feel free to reach out to me, and we'd be more than happy to bring those up. I want to say thank you to Angelee for coming on tonight and sharing her thoughts on this, and being such a big supporter of Great Mind Sessions. And Kailey, the sauce boss. I love your Stay Saucy. It just, every time you say that, it makes me smile. It's awesome. But when you're looking for opportunities, I mean, there's some great products there. I mean, Kailey sent me some samples. I had the Alfredo this weekend, and I'm going to be trying that cheese sauce. I was going to make mac and cheese, but I might have to wait until I make pierogies and throw it on top of those now, because that just intrigued me when I saw that online. So, and everybody else who joined this evening, thank you so much for being here. Chef, just when you were talking about communities kind of coming together, I just want to share one thing. I did watch something a little bit earlier tonight. We all saw what was going on down in, the southern central states with all the tornadoes and all that kind of stuff. In Kentucky, there is something going on. It's America's Best Restaurants.live/donate. I'm not getting anything from this. I just saw it earlier and thought, for those of us who are in the space, if you have the opportunity, there's lots of people that have lost everything. You think there's a car restaurant was on the presentation, and, coming into Christmas season, they had all these big parties planned and all that kind of stuff. The restaurant's leveled. It's gone. They don't have a business. They don't have a home. They don't have anything. Right. And it's devastating that, you survive COVID, you survive the challenges for recruiting, and then a tornado comes in and completely takes everything away from you. So I can put that out there. I'll share out some stuff on it, but it's just, if you're able, there's an opportunity to help more people in our industry to survive and get through. So with that, guys, thank you so much for tonight. It was a pleasure with this conversation. I appreciate everybody participating, and I look forward to, have a great holiday season, whatever you celebrate. I hope you have a safe and happy holiday season, an amazing new year. I look forward to seeing all of you in January to continue our discussions. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Bye.